Working memory. Everyone assumes an IQ score tells you how smart you are. The first thing an intelligence test actually measures has nothing to do with knowledge, nothing to do with reasoning, and it peaks before most people hit 30. From that point forward, it only goes down. Working memory is your brain's active workspace, the number of things you can hold in your mind and use at the same time. The key word is use. You are holding live information and doing something with it simultaneously. And the moment the load exceeds your capacity, things start dropping. Most people discover that ceiling is much lower than they actually thought. That ceiling is set largely by the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the region in the front of your brain that manages active thought. Problem solving, tracking multiple variables, holding one piece of information while processing another, all of that runs through this structure. And it's the first major cognitive system to begin declining after your late 20s. Not from atrophy or lack of use, it's simply the biological timeline. Nobody brings it up at their birthday party, but the data is pretty clear. An IQ test, like the 4th edition of the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, or WAIS-IV, samples working memory in two ways. The first is called digit span. Numbers are read to you out loud, and you simply have to repeat them back. It is easy at first, but the string of numbers quickly becomes longer and harder to remember, and then it gets even worse. Next, you're asked to say the numbers backwards and then reordered numerically. What this test is measuring is your phonological loop, your brain's ability to hold on to auditory information and manipulate it before it disappears. The confirmation code someone reads to you over the phone while you are trying to write it down is a real-life demonstration of this. 6 digits is fine. 9 digits with letters mixed in and someone talking nearby is where you find out exactly how much your phonological loop is actually doing for you. The second subtest is arithmetic. A math problem is read to you out loud and you have to solve it entirely in your head. You're not allowed to use pencil and paper and definitely not a calculator. If the idea of that already sounds miserable, you're not alone. Did we mention it's also timed? The math itself is simple enough to solve in writing. The constraint is having to hold every variable in active memory while simultaneously running operations on them. Your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex has to juggle the numbers and do the math at the same time, and the moment one piece drops, the whole problem is gone. People who are genuinely strong at arithmetic still miss these because they're not really about math. Splitting a dinner bill 5 ways in your head while someone across the table is telling you what they think you should tip is this exact task. If you have ever just said, "I'll Venmo you later," and moved on with your life, your working memory made that call. Verbal comprehension. An IQ test also measures vocabulary, which at first sounds like the laziest way to measure how well someone thinks, like grading someone's intelligence by whether or not they can spell. But psychologists didn't choose this test by accident. Verbal comprehension is your brain's accumulated store of language-based knowledge, how precisely it understands word meanings, how much factual knowledge it has absorbed over a lifetime, and how well it draws abstract connections between concepts. The biology for this sits in Wernicke's area, a region in the left temporal lobe responsible for language comprehension, and in the broader temporal lobe where semantic memory lives. Semantic memory is the accumulated network of facts, concepts, and relationships your brain has been building and refining across your entire life. Verbal comprehension measures how complete and accurate that network is. Psychologists call this crystallized intelligence, the kind that builds over a lifetime and does not peak in high school. Unlike working memory, crystallized intelligence keeps growing well into your 50s and beyond. For once, time is working in your favor. The first subtest is vocabulary. You are simply given a word and asked to define it. What separates a high score from a low one is how deeply your brain actually understands the concept. Someone who says ubiquitous means everywhere, and someone who says ubiquitous means so common in a given context that it's essentially stopped registering, are not just using different words. Their brains have encoded that knowledge at completely different levels. That depth and precision is what the subtest is looking for. In real life, this is the difference between reaching for exactly the right word automatically and spending 4 seconds going, it's like when, you know what I mean. The second subtest is similarities. You're given 2 words and asked how they are alike. The early pairs are obvious. Then the test puts 2 words in front of you that seem to have absolutely nothing in common, to the point you're convinced it must be a trick question. But it's testing whether your brain can think abstractly enough to find the connection that is actually there. This is the mechanism underneath all formal reasoning, and people who do it quickly and accurately are not just better with language, Their brains organize information entirely differently. The third subtest is information. This is a test of general knowledge about things like history, science, and geography. What it measures is long-term memory, how effectively your brain has encoded and filed information across your lifetime. Here's where all those years of gathering useless information actually pays off. It is also the subtest where you'll completely blank on something you learned in 6th grade and have never thought about since. Perceptual reasoning. Half of what an IQ test measures has nothing to do with anything you've ever learned. You can't study for it. The person who aced every vocabulary question can completely fall apart on this one. Meanwhile, the person who barely passed English might do very well. Perceptual reasoning is your brain's ability to analyze visual information, identify patterns and spatial relationships, and solve problems it has never seen before, without language, without stored knowledge, and without any prior experience that applies. There is no preparation that changes this score in any meaningful way. Your brain either sees what is there or it does not. Two regions of the brain are responsible for this. The parietal lobe handles spatial processing, mapping three-dimensional relationships, tracking how objects relate to each other in space, and mentally rotating and manipulating visual information. The occipital lobe processes what your eyes are actually seeing and sends that raw input to the parietal lobe for analysis. Together, they power fluid intelligence, pure problem-solving ability that has nothing to do with education or experience. That Ivy League degree is completely irrelevant here. On the WAIS, the first subtest is matrix reasoning. You're given a grid of shapes or patterns with one piece missing, and you choose from options below to complete it. What's being measured is inductive reasoning, your parietal lobe's ability to spot patterns in unfamiliar material and figure out what comes next. In real life, it's like when your uncle tells the same terrible joke at every family gathering. You can predict exactly what he's going to say before he even opens his mouth. The second subtest is visual puzzles. You're shown a completed shape, and 6 pieces appear below it. You have to pick the 3 that actually build that shape just by visualizing how they go together in your head. The task requires mentally rotating and repositioning images in a way that only exists inside your brain. A real-world version of this is trying to figure out if a couch will fit up a stairwell without actually measuring or moving anything. Your brain has to run that whole simulation to see if it works before anyone makes a terrible decision. The third subtest is block design. You're shown a 2D image and given a set of blocks. Your job is to arrange those blocks to match the image before the timer runs out. It's measuring your ability to look at a visual target and physically construct it in space. The person who is good at this is the one who looks at a pile full of luggage and immediately knows how it all fits in the trunk, versus the person who tries 6 different configurations, gives up, and leaves one bag in the driveway. Processing speed. The final component of an IQ test is almost insultingly simple. It looks like something a 5-year-old could do. What it's measuring is how fast your brain actually runs. Processing speed is how fast your brain takes in information, makes a decision, and responds, and how accurate you are while doing it. There's no reasoning, no knowledge required, just pure speed and precision. The tasks are deliberately easy, so what's being measured is only your brain's ability to quickly process and react. Processing speed is determined largely by myelin, the fatty insulating sheath that wraps around your neurons and is part of your brain's white matter. Myelin works the way insulation works on an electrical wire. It prevents signal loss and increases the speed at which electrical impulses travel between brain regions. More intact myelin means faster transmission. Degraded myelin means slower processing. This is not a learned skill. It's a physical feature of your brain's wiring that develops early, stays relatively stable through adulthood, and gradually declines with age. The first subtest is coding. You're given a key with a symbol that matches each digit from 1 to 9. Below that is a long list of random numbers, and you write the correct symbol under each one as fast as you can. What it measures is how quickly your visual cortex reads the information, processes it, and executes the correct response. This is a skill you use when you're taking notes during a lecture and have to keep pace with what's being said. The second subtest is symbol search. You're given 2 target symbols, and across from them is a row of 5 more. Your job is to decide as fast as possible whether either one of the targets appears again anywhere in that row. What it measures is visual discrimination, your brain's ability to scan an environment, filter out everything irrelevant, and lock on to what you are looking for. The speed and accuracy of doing that reliably is the difference between finding exactly what you need in the pantry in 2 seconds versus standing there 30 seconds later wondering why you walked in there in the first place. Processing speed is crucial because if your brain can't keep up, you can't learn new information. Working memory, reasoning, vocabulary, all of it depends on your system running at a decent pace. The tasks might seem simple and pointless, but they're measuring the basis for everything else. So there you have it, the actual breakdown of what an IQ test really is. Now that you know what's on it, you could always try to game the system. Spend a week reading the dictionary, playing with blocks, and solving math problems in your head. You might just walk out with an IQ of 160 plus. Honestly, it probably won't work that way, but it's worth a shot.